Good evening, good afternoon, from wherever you are. And welcome to Connect Africa once again. We are here to discuss the important issues. One of the things that we are trying to do is, of course, to create awareness, to empower ourselves and our brothers and sisters with information, then we know how to act and what to do, in order to fight what we have to fight, because the struggle is not over yet. So today's topic is what are the signs and symptoms or characteristics of a neo-colonial agent in Africa. It could be a leader that he sits as a president or a prime minister. It could be just a minister. It could be just one of those big entrepreneurs who is sponsoring the votes, the election, or whatever, who's backing those people behind. But what are those signs that people have to pay attention? So to discuss here, we have our brothers, Kwame, Gonza, and Kwame is from Ghana. Welcome, my brothers.
Thank you, Mahlet. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What are, as an ordinary African, what are the things that I can look at for a leader in my country or in Africa, that he or she is working for, who are trying to impose neo-colonialism on their nation, under the disguise of Pan-Africanism, because most of the time we hear them doing their sweet talk to the people, but behind the curtain they are doing something else. So just, help us to understand what are the characteristics that we should look at. Kwame, the same question to you. What are the signs and symptoms we should pay attention for these neo-colonial agents in our continent?
Thank you, Mahlet. Okay. All right. So I want also to add on what they have said. They have really elaborated on the situation very well. But nevertheless, I'll also go ahead to expand on it to give justice to the topic of today, what the characteristics of neo-colonial agents on the continent. So when we are talking about the neo-colonial agents on the continent, we are not only actually talking about the presidents in particular, but even it can be even business people. It can be even normal citizens themselves. When you look at people like Lambert spoke about the media, people in the media, you can see how they express themselves, whether they are representing, you can, when you look at them, you can differentiate whether they are representing Africa, or they are representing the neo-colonial interests, or rather the West. Now, the term neo-colonialism, I first encountered it from the writings of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, especially when you're talking about the book Neocolonialism, The Last Stage of Imperialism, that book which he published in 1965. And immediately the Americans protested against the book when he published it, because they thought that he's putting them out there in the light for people to know what these guys are about. So they protested against him. And even that time, Ghana was supposed to receive around $20 million from the United States as loan. So they seized the money and they said they will not give it to Ghana. Nkrumah has to remove the book out of print. So I would encourage people really to read that book, because even when you read it today, it has that information which is very solid, that shows you the workings. And he has even a chapter in there which is called The Mechanism of Neocolonialism, how it works. So when you read this book, you will be able to analyze and look at things, look at systems, look at people and how they are behaving, and be able to understand yourself that this person is representing neocolonialism, or this leader, this president, the way he's acting is a neocolonialist. He's helping the neocolonialists to dominate us. So Nkrumah defines neocolonialism as a continuation of colonialism. So neocolonialism itself means new colonialism. So it is colonial, it's the same colonialism, but it's just that he gave it a term, neo, to make it look like it is new colonialism. But he said that neocolonialism is subtle colonialism, so is hidden colonialism. And so they achieve the same objectives which they achieved under colonialism in a different guise. He called it a different guise. Now, what do they do in this system? He said that the country which is in the grip of neocolonialism, it has all the outward trappings of a free state, of an independent state, an independent country. For example, flags, it has national flag, it has national anthem, it has seats at the United Nations, but in actual, in reality, that country is not free. Its politics is controlled from the metropolis in France, in Brussels, London, Paris, Washington. So that is how he described neocolonialism, that it governs the country and continues to exploit it, but in a manner which is hidden from the people. People, they may think that they have leaders, but when in actual sense that those leaders are controlled from outside. The economic policies of the countries are controlled from outside, and the political direction of the nations, of the countries, also is controlled from outside the country, and majorly from the United States, in Washington, London, in the UK, Paris, and Brussels, in Belgium. Now, who are these people? When we are talking about the characteristics of neocolonialists, or people who are serving neocolonialism. Neocolonialism, as we said, is a form of imperialism. These type of people, they normally use terms which are transient. When I'm talking about transient terms, these are ambiguous. Let me say ambiguous terms. Things which are not scientific, okay? They are not practical, like words which are not practical, that they don't mean much, okay? You can look at words, for example, like sustainability, okay? People normally talk about sustainability, sustainable development goals, okay? Sustainable development goals, SDGs. People who are neocolonialists and represent neocolonialism, they use such terms, Millennium Development Goals, SDGs. When you examine their speeches, especially presidents, you will see that they have these words in their speeches, rule of law, constitution, even though their countries may not have these things which they are talking about. Sustainable development goals, they will talk about private sector, for example, okay? Private sector, they will be championing the private sector as the only means of salvation, even though we know that countries like Singapore, South Korea, Japan itself, China, majorly, all these countries have developed not on privatization and the private sector, but rather their development to be rapid have been driven by the public sector. But these leaders who represent neocolonialism, you will see that they will be mentioning words like the private sector, privatization, okay, rule of law, freedom, sustainable development goals. Okay, when you examine their speeches, Millennium Development Goals, these words they don't miss in their speeches. Also, on one side, these people, they associate themselves with the West very much. Okay, they don't pay attention to the African culture. Even when they pay attention to it, they pay lip service to the African culture. Okay, you may find that someone puts on a shirt once in a while, which is African in nature. They don't put on, African attire, for example. They don't like associating themselves with Africa. They like more to associate themselves with the West and the Western standards. They like to measure everything by the Western standards, like what I mentioned when you are talking about democracy. they will always compare to the West. They will not compare themselves, to African, like we want to set a new standard for Africa. Okay, they will always compare themselves to Obama, or they will say Bill Clinton. They will say Obama has said this, George Bush has said this. Okay, they will say Macron has said this. So they always want to, to look at the West as the standard of everything. Whether you are talking about news, they watch BBC, CNN, Fox News. These are the types of things, these type of people, if you want to identify them, that you should look at it. Now, they are also champions. These people who represent neocolonialism, one of their characteristics is that they represent, European solutions. When you come to the African context, they like to champion the Western solutions for Africa. So when you are talking about Africa, that you are bringing African solutions, immediately they will dismiss it. They will dismiss any African solution, whether you're talking about politics or economic, and you are talking about we should bring our own political system, which favors us as Africans. This thing of electing and regretting, within a short period of 1 year or 2 years, we have just elected a leader, and then now in a few years, like 2 years, after 2 years of elections, we are regretting. And you say that we should, I think, change this type of electing leaders or getting leaders. These people, they will dismiss any African solutions, okay, whether they are political or economic. They will say that Africans, the African things, they don't work, they are outdated. Okay, they will look at the white man's things as the ultimate solutions to the African problems, even though we have seen that for the last 600 years, ever since the white man came here, those solutions which they have been giving us, they have not worked for us. Even after independence, when we got independence, 60 years into independence now, we have not gotten a breakthrough. And when you look at countries like China, which adopted their own solutions, traditional solutions from their country, they have been able to develop in a period of 30 years, in a very, very short period of 30 years. So these people, they do not like Pan-Africanism. So when you talk about Pan-Africanism, they look at Pan-Africanism as some outdated ideology, okay, some outdated idea. You see, not knowing that Pan-Africanism as an ideology is what brought us independence, is what brought us, freedom from slavery. When you are talking about slavery, it was Pan-Africanism which brought us all these goods, the freedom which we are enjoying today, the relative freedom, political freedom which we are enjoying today, was brought by Pan-Africanism, because our leaders worked together. People like Nkrumah was working with liberation movements in Guinea. When you are talking about Guinea, Conakry, Guinea-Bissau, was working with people in Zimbabwe, was working with people in South Africa, Uganda, all over the continent. Nkrumah was. So that was the Pan-African spirit that time, which brought us independence. But when you talk about Pan-Africanism today, these people who represent neocolonialism, they will dismiss Pan-Africanism and say it is not anything. Pan-Africanism is an outdated idea. So they will try to dismiss any African solution. So these people, they try to hurry to side with the West. Some of them, when you monitor their children, when you look at their children, they study from the West. They don't regard the African system of education and health. They get their treatments. Okay, when you are talking about when they become sick, they go to the West for treatment. When they want their children, their wives, or to give birth, they will send their children to the West. That is, I'm talking about the leaders. Okay, they have houses. Okay, you will find that they have houses in Britain. They have houses in Paris. You find that they have houses in Washington. So these are the signs which you can look out for you to identify these people who are representing neocolonialism on the African continent. And on the other side, they are very, quick to welcome the West, and especially military bases. We have seen these instances, many, many times. We have seen this situation many times. For example, recently in Zambia, okay, We have seen this in Somalia recently. We heard that they have just elected a new president in Somalia, and immediately they have elected a new president, and in a very short time, even less than a week, they have decided to bring back the American troops on Somalian soil. So you can know that you can be rest assured that the president there who was elected in Somalia recently is just a neocolonial puppet, because you look at the steps he has taken. Even the oil contracts which were cancelled in February, you will see that he will reinstate them. So these type of leaders, they are very quick to welcome military bases on the African soil, in the regions where they belong, and they are very quick to give out African resources. Okay, even though Africa is not benefiting, the African people are not benefiting, they will quickly give out the African resources. The other thing which I noticed about these type of people is that they are cowards in very many cases, because neocolonialism operates in different methods. It has methods in which it operates. For example, they will intimidate certain leaders if they refuse to act in a certain way. Others, they will bribe them. Okay, but the courageous leaders, they will stand their ground and say, I represent my people. My people, they elected me. But the neocolonial agents, they will not stand for that. If it is bribing them, like I said, and they'll give them a house in Paris, or they will send their children to Paris, or they will send their children to Washington, or to London, or to Brussels to study, they will sell out to the whole country and give out the resources of the country. And the public pass will take, like, for example, 2%, 5%, 10%, and these multinational companies will take like 80%. Like my brother Lansana, what he said, what is happening in Senegal with the oil and gas in Senegal, that Senegal was able to, the president was able to give out the oil in Senegal. With the 10%, Senegal will retain only 10%, and France will take 80%. With their cooperation. So this is these are the characteristics that these people are cowards, that they don't want to stand for their people. They don't want to stand like how you see President Kwame Nkrumah, how he stood with courage, and they tried to bribe him, they tried to intimidate him, but he refused and said, I want to represent my people. I want to unify Africa. I want Africa to work for the Africans. People like President Magufuli of Tanzania, who died in very dubious circumstances, which we believe that he was killed by these neo-colonialists. So President Magufuli stood strong and said, I want to represent my people. And so these multinational companies who have been robbing us, who have been stealing the gold from Tanzania, they have to pay. So they decided to kill him. So however much these type of leaders who are good will be intimidated, they will stand and be courageous. But the neo-colonial agents, they will not, be able to stand and be courageous. They will not exercise any form of courage to be able to represent their people. Oh, so that is one of the characteristics. The other characteristics which I see is that these type of people, they don't care about transforming the structural basis of society, transforming the structures of society, whether you're talking about the political structures or the economic structures. Because if you are talking about transforming a nation, then you have to transform the structure of it, the structure of the nation. You have to shape the structure, like what you see President Magufuli did when he came to power in Tanzania, that he shook the whole structure of the economy of Tanzania, that you saw that there is rapid transformation that is, happening in the country. But when you look at the neo-colonial agents, they don't care about transforming the structure of the nations where they, where they govern, or the nations where they are, even if they are just mere business people or people who are leading state corporations. They don't care about transforming the structural basis of the economy. They care about things like reform. So you will hear them using terms like reform. We are reforming the economy. The country needs reform. So those kind of words, they don't want to talk about transformation of society, but rather they are constantly talking about reform this, reform that. So they don't care about transforming the structural basis of their societies. Now, on the other thing which I looked at is that these people, they lack originality. These neo-colonial agents, they lack originality, that they don't have original ideas. Okay, even though we have many ideas which have been put up by Pan-Africanists. You can talk of people like Kwame Nkrumah. You can talk of people like Marcus Garvey. You can talk of people like Walter Rodney. So these people, they will not go out to seek some of these original ideas to be able to come and be able to transform, the economies. They will not. So they will instead run to the World Bank to seek for economic policies that they will be able to implement in their countries. They will go and ask for everything that they, even the solutions which are in the country. They will not ask our professors in universities, the many universities which we have in the countries. They will not come out to ask civil society how they want the country to run. No, they will not do that. They will go out there to the World Bank, to the Europeans, and whenever Europeans, summon them to summits, they will run, they will identify with those people. So they don't have original ideas on how to transform the African continent itself when you look at it in its entirety. So when I looked around, these are the characteristics which I would come up with. Thank you very much, Mahlet.
Thank you very much indeed, Gonza. Really, that was Kwame Nkrumah's 101 brought to us. Now, really, thank you.